we're going to start talking about Hasty-Bakes utilizing the Legacy. The Legacy is the most popular grill that we sell, and it's closest to the original 1948 model Hasty-Bake in size. All Hasty-Bakes have the same features and functions. We're going to use the Legacy because it is the most popular unit. First of all Hasty-Bakes have a full-length, full-width fire door. The door opens up and gives you access to the ash pan. The ash pan covers the entire bottom of the unit and catches all of the ashes as well as all the drippings from the food. It's best to line it with aluminum foil to protect it and make for easier cleanup. This is the ash pan. The whole thing slides out to be dumped out. The firebox is also accessible from the side. This is where you actually put the charcoal. You're able to pull it out through the fire door to reload or add more charcoal without having to open the lid, losing your heat and smoke, or having to move the food. Hasty-Bakes also use a lift mechanism. Over here on this side, there's a crank handle that raises and lowers the height of the firebox. When you move the crank handle, it can raise the fire up very, very close to the food to sear hamburgers or steaks, or to put any hot sear on whatever you're wanting to cook. It comes up within an inch or two of the cooking grills. If you're doing pork chops, chicken breast, or sausages, things you want to do at a lower level, you can just lower the heat down. Cranking the crank handle changes the intensity of the heat. Moving it closer makes more heat. Putting it further away, you get less heat. There's also a little indicator needle here on the front of the unit. When you move the crank handle, it moves the indicator needle up or down depending on which way you're cranking the crank handle. The firebox moves all the way up to the top and goes all the way down to the ash pan so that when you're finished you can lower the firebox down to be able to put out the fire. All Hasty-Bakes also come with a stainless steel front work table. It just clips right on the front of the grill. You can put your sauce or seasoning or utensils actually up here on the front work table. When you're not using it, it can be stored inside the unit, or you can stow it down below the ash pan in the empty space down there. All Hasty-Bakes also use a dual draft vent system. The intake vent, where the air comes into the unit, is over here on the fire door. Air goes in through this vent at the very lowest firebox height. Charcoal burns, creating heat and smoke that rise and fill the hood. Now, unlike a traditional smoker, which typically has a chimney or smokestack on the top, the Hasty-Bake actually ventilates below the cooking height. These vents here are the exhaust vents. So the heat and smoke rise and fill the lid from the top all the way down, completely covering the food, and then the heat and smoke is allowed to come out through the exhaust. You use the intake and exhaust vents to modulate the airflow and thus the charcoal burn rate to control temperature. If you open the vents wide open, you get more airflow and see higher temperatures. Close the vents down, and that snuffs the fire out and gives you lower temperatures. It's not immediate or exact, but even a novice can easily master the Hasty-Bake's vent system. Another feature that Grant Hastings came up with was the grease drain rod. The cooking grills are V-shaped so that the grease channels towards the middle of the cooking grill. It then drips down onto the grease drain rod, which is sloped towards the grease cup. It doesn't collect all of the grease, but if you're cooking hamburgers, it'll really save your eyebrows from flare-ups. This is the most common complaint about charcoal grills, that they're hard to clean, they're hard to use, and that they're hard to start. So to clean out a Hasty-Bake, you empty the ashes through the ash pan, you empty the grease from the grease cup. And then for your typical grilling usage, you raise and lower the height of the firebox to change the intensity of the heat, and open and close the vents in order to control the airflow and the overall temperature of the unit. Hasty-Bakes also have the ability to cook indirectly over the cook surface. Indirect heat uses the hot air created by the burning charcoal to actually cook food, like a convection oven. There's no direct heat from the charcoal going up and searing the food. The way we're able to actually do that is utilizing a piece called the heat deflector. Here in the firebox, we recommend you use a half of a firebox load of charcoal. It's an approximate amount depending on what you're trying to cook and for how long. But typically about a half of a firebox, just a pile in this half of the unit will provide plenty of heat for an evening of grilling or for several hours of smoking. So you'll keep your fire pushed to this side. If you're grilling for 50 or more friends and need to utilize the entire cook surface, once your charcoal is going, you can spread the coals out and grill over the entire area. But for baking and smoking using convection heat, we utilize the heat deflector. What the heat deflector does is it clips right over the top of the charcoal, stopping the direct infrared heat from coming up and searing the food. You're basically putting the charcoal in the shade. Just like when it's a sunny day and you stand outside in the sun, it feels much, much hotter because you're feeling the infrared heat. Just like if the food is right over the charcoal, it's feeling all of the infrared heat from the charcoal. However, if you put the charcoal in the shade, just like moving to the shade on a hot day, you're only experiencing the hot air or the warm air outside. That way the food is only experiencing the warm air from the charcoal burning. The heat deflector easily slides on the firebox so it can be moved out of the way to add more charcoal or add wood chunks. It's not necessary to fill the firebox up the full length with charcoal or wood. This can cause damage to the Hasty-Bake. The heat deflector can be added or removed at any time depending on what you're wanting to cook. There are times where you may start off indirect cooking and sear at the end, or there are times where you may start off searing and then add the heat deflector to finish some food off. All of the units also have a bimetal thermometer in the lid. The bimetal thermometer is going to tell you the temperature of the air within the hood. It is not an indication of the amount of heat right over the charcoal if you're cooking with direct heat. However, if you're using the heat deflector, it is an accurate reflection of the temperature inside the grill. So for smoking and baking, the thermometer is accurate. For grilling, it is only giving you an approximation as to the heat inside the unit. We make Hasty-Bakes in several different models and sizes, and we'll discuss those next.